Several people are attracted by the display in the back, and that's fine. Twyla's got a display of jewelry, and we'll stick around as long as people want to try on jewelry. When we first moved to Tanzania, Twyla was approached by one of the ladies in church, and she said, "Can you help us create a jewelry making group?" And Twyla says, "Well, I don't know anything about making jewelry, but I've got a patio and chairs, and people can come to my place and make jewelry." About 2 years later, we finally figured out that what they were asking was, "Will you hire us to make jewelry?" And we had no budget for that. But by that time, they had the relationship and they were making jewelry, and we've made recommendations about what kind of jewelry to make and some materials to use and things like that. So she's got a ladies group. It's called Nalepo, which means by our own hands, that makes jewelry. And they send it over for Twyla to sell while we're in the States and in Canada. They upcycle a lot of materials. I said to them, I grew up among the Cree people, and the Cree people use birch bark and wood and horns and hooves and leather and all kinds of stuff. And so they take the trash around the place and they turn it into beads and jewelry. And so you'll see paper beads, you'll see wooden beads, you'll see flip-flop beads, plastic beads made out of cast-off materials and upcycled. And so that's what she's got out back, and I encourage you to spend some time looking at least. I'll have this slide at the end, so if you don't get our contact information and you want it, it'll be on at the end as well. I want you to know, first of all, where we're at. We're living in Africa, and Africa is actually bigger than North and South America put together. So it's a huge place, but we're in Central Africa on the east side, below the Horn of Africa. This is called the Horn of Africa. You can understand why. If you look at the border between Kenya and Tanzania, you see that little jog? That's where Mount Kilimanjaro is. And it takes us about 4 hours to drive to Moshi, which is at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro. So if you zoom in a little bit, you can see Mount Kilimanjaro there, the highest freestanding mountain in the world, which means it isn't part of a range of mountains. It stands up by itself, and it's a huge volcano. Mount Meru beside it. Kilimanjaro rises a little over 19,000 feet. Meru rises a little over 14,000 feet, and probably at one time in its history was taller than Kilimanjaro. But it did the Mount St. Helens thing. There are pieces of Mount Meru scattered all over the countryside, pieces as big as this church building, some of them. And then the Monduli Mountains, which is a cluster of about 21 little volcanic cones together. And then further to the west, the Ngorongoro Highlands and the Serengeti. The Ngorongoro crater is very famous for the number of different kinds of wildlife and the amount of wildlife there. It's very famous. If you're going to a safari in Africa, you're probably going to go to Ngorongoro crater. And so there's the Monduli Mountains. At the bottom is Monduli town. Up here in this area is where we live. And so here's Emareti village. And there's our house, our church building right there. You see the white tanks alongside. And above it, there's a dispensary that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And below it, there's also some church buildings we're going to talk about in a little bit. This is a little small village, mostly Maasai and Warusha people. And so we have some neighbors. This is Twiga. That's the Swahili word for for giraffe, and Tembo, and I don't know the Swahili word. Hatari might be a good word. Danger. It's a nice picture of a very, very unnice animal. We had a little boy that was injured. He was looking after the herd of one of the families that we're associated with, and a baboon attacked the bull in the herd. We don't know why the baboon would attack the bull, but it was attacking the bull, and the little boy ran up and whacked the baboon with a stick. And the baboon ran away, but as it turned to run away, it snapped at the little boy like a dog would, and there was 2 teeth marks all the way to the bone, just from that one tiny little, so they're very dangerous animals. And we've been in Tanzania since 2016. We moved there. We actually went there the first time in 2013, made another trip in 2015, moved there in 2016, and we've lived there ever since. This is the house of the bishop, because Bishop Leiser of the Lutheran Church built this house for his wife, who was the headmistress at Maasai Girls' School down in town. And she didn't want to live in town, which is a Chaga community. She wanted to live among the Maasai. And so this is the house we live in our yard. We were having a baptism in our yard that day because we had water. So what have we accomplished in 10 years since 2016? We've built 8 large rainwater harvesting systems. Our first, run you through them, but our first was on our church building. Actually, our first was on our house, because we live with rainwater harvesting. We've got 4 men who are now capable of building a rainwater harvesting system on their own, and a 5th that is well into training, another brother in that same family. Entire communities that have helped us build rainwater harvesting systems, so they have an idea how to build. And we've installed 125 tanks, 835,000 liters of water, or 220.6 thousand gallons, US gallons of water. And more large projects, and we've got a new small project, not project, how do I say, a model for small projects that we're beginning to pursue. And Twyla has sold over $5,000 of the ladies' jewelry and returned that money to the ladies a little bit at a time over the years. So this is our first rainwater harvesting system at the Monduli Jew Church of Christ. Our guys that I've trained to build rainwater harvesting systems, this was their first project. They came every day to work on building this. And then when we built the Emirati dispensary next door, the same 4 guys right there came every day. I mean, we had lots of people from the community, but Paulo, who works for us, and you would call them his cousins. In the Maasai language, they're his brothers. But so these 4 brothers who were every day building this system, and you see the celebration for that system. That system was paid for by the Dunnville Rotary Club. And my second cousin, Bob Perry, is a member of that club, and we made that connection through the Dunnville relationship. That's 14 10,000-liter tanks. Before we built that, this clinic didn't have a good water supply. In fact, when they first built the clinic, the head doctor in the district wouldn't allow a doctor to come up except one day a week with water in the back of the car. Since we built the system, they've never run out of water. And they've got running water in the rooms where the ladies are giving birth. So they didn't have any of that before. We finished that project, had a little money left over, and we had some other money given to us, and so we did a project for the Imarijo Primary School. And later on, we came back and did a second project, larger project at that same school. This project provides clean water for the kitchen and for the teachers' families that live there. But the whole community around there doesn't have a good source of water. And so our church in Memphis gave us $25,000 and said, do with it what you want. And I asked the church in Manduliju, and they said, we need to go to Eloy and do a system. And so we built this system, 75,000 liters of water, 10 tanks that were 7,500 liters, providing water for that school. And this is the second project at Imarijo, and you can see that it's 21 10,000 liter tanks. So now that school has almost 300,000 liters of water, and it provides water. There's a line that goes off campus to a little shelter off campus where people can come and get water without coming up among the children. Because like here, their education authorities are worried about strangers wandering on campus. But I chose this picture. Now I want you to see Kishamoy and Johanna and Loseku are three of my guys that built the system. Innocent is from the church down at the bottom of the mountain. These two young men are from Manduliju Church. This guy is from the Manduliju Church. Almost everyone in this picture are members of our congregation or one of the nearby congregations. But that was our first really big project. Recently we finished the Ole Sekoini Secondary School. We put in 40 10,000 liter tanks, and that's only half of the campus. We also came in under budget, so we're going to buy a bunch more tanks and build out that project. But here's the handover, and here are the children learning how to use tools and they're cutting a pipe right there, but they're learning how to use a level and stuff. We had people from the community and the older children worked with us all the way through this project. So at that campus, we have about 1,000 students living on campus. And they had a water supply, but it was not very good. It's a pipe coming from a spring 15 kilometers away. And if an elephant walks through and steps on the pipe, it breaks. If a buffalo comes through and steps on the pipe, it breaks. Or Maasai herdsmen come through and chop a hole in the pipe so their herds can have water. They're constantly having to repair that line. And the head teacher wrote us a letter, said the last time the older children went out to repair the pipe, they were attacked by a buffalo. And fortunately, nobody was killed. One of the boys spent the night in the hospital. But this will give them cleaner water, more water, and they don't have to go and repair the line. And we hope to install another 50 tanks at that location. This is why we do these projects. I mean, we're showing God's love through providing water. That's easy. But while we're working on the projects, and I'm not the one that's doing the teaching, we're busy working, and I'll hear a conversation off to the side. It's basically, why do you people do this? What's different about your church for you to come and do this? And the conversation goes on. And so as we were working at Imarijo, one of the guys came up and nudged me with his elbow. He said, we have to leave early today. And because Imarijo is a place where it's dangerous to drive if it's wet. There's a hill that's covered with slick mud, and I've nearly rolled the car a bunch of times on that hill. And so I look around at the clouds going, why do we have to leave early? It's not going to rain. And he said, no, somebody wants to be baptized. Nearly every project has had that same interruption. This is Twyla's ladies group, and you see some of the jewelry that they've done there. These are wooden beads made from coffee wood, and we have coffee growing in our yard. It also makes good firewood, so the coffee plantations sell it when they prune their bushes. It also has beads made from, when we drill holes in the tanks, the little plastic chips spring out, and we make earrings and beads out of them. And it has rings from the tops of soda bottles and paper beads and probably flip-flop beads and other stuff. But they get together and they make jewelry and they have a Bible study. And sometimes when nobody shows up, they say, let's just have a Bible study. Not, let's just make jewelry, let's just have a Bible study. And last time we were in North America, we were raising money for Bibles, and it costs about $10 for a Bible, but many of these ladies don't read. And so we found a source that gives audio Bibles in both Swahili and in Maasai. They're solar powered. They have their own speaker. And you can't delete the Bible stuff and put other stuff on it, like you can with a cell phone or whatever. And so their grandchildren don't steal it to play music. So those Bibles, Twyla is raising money to, and she's passing one around. You can see it. You can actually play the Bible in Swahili or Maasai if you want. And last time we were in North America, we were raising money for this little guy, which will supplement. I want you to understand what you're seeing here. We were stuck in some quicksand. We were on the way to a funeral. That box up on top, that's a coffin. And we were carrying the coffin, the body, to a funeral, and we went through a river, made it through the river, but got stuck in quicksand on the way up the bank. And about 35 guys came and pulled me out of the quicksand. But for really bad weather, and for Twyla when she can't walk around because of her bad knee, we're trying to buy one of these. And we actually have the money now, but the shop that sells them can't import them. And so we're waiting for a friend of ours who has one to leave Tanzania, and we're hoping to buy his. But that'll give us transportation in really desperate situations, and also for Twyla to be able to go and visit the ladies. And we have recently made a partnership, or we're working on a partnership with an organization called Global Waterworks. It's a faith-based organization that is doing different kinds of water projects all over the world, but primarily in Kenya. And they've got a standard deal where if a church will give $5,000, they'll go to a church in Africa and put a standard three 10,000-liter tanks and maybe a roof and other things for that church to provide for the community around them. And we've been needing a small project model, and so we're partnering with them. We're trying to figure out how to partner with them for their model of how to provide small water projects. And I'm open for questions. Oh, somebody asked me about drilling wells. We don't drill wells because we live on top of a volcano. Okay, now, it's a dormant volcano. We're not in danger of hitting lava or anything like that. But volcanoes, besides lava, spit out a whole bunch of chemicals. All of the water that comes out of the ground, including the springs on the mountainside, have too much fluoride in them. Some of the places, I don't know about right where we live, but some of the places around us have tested up to 60 times the recommended dose of fluoride. So we put fluoride in the water here to make it healthier. A little bit of fluoride, like a little bit of iodine, is good for you. A whole lot of fluoride is just as bad for you as iodine. It's in the same family of chemicals. And so all of the people that live around us have brown streaks in their teeth because that's the first symptom of fluoridosis. They're getting too much fluoride, and it makes your bones brittle. It won't kill you unless you get a whole lot of it, but it makes you more susceptible to other illnesses, especially to breaking your bones. And so we don't drill because of the fluoride, because there's virtually there are pockets where you can get groundwater, but like the mosque beside our church building dug a hole by hand 200 meters in the ground and could not get water. And at a place where I would have sworn they would get water. It's just that far down, there's no groundwater. The school at the bottom of the mountain, which is run by a friend of ours, paid to have a well dug. And again, they paid geologists to find, here's where water's going to be. And at 200 meters, they had no water. That's 600 feet in the ground. No water. You had a question.
How is your rainfall situated?
Probably more than you get here. But it's very, very seasonal, and that's why we have so many tanks. We have 2 rainy seasons, a short rainy season sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and a long rainy season, basically February, March, April. March, April, May. 3 months. And it pretty much rains every day during those 2 rainy seasons. We get about 30 inches or about 0.8 meters of rain in the average year. It's quite a bit of rain, but it's all in those rainy seasons. When it stops raining at the end of May, it doesn't rain again until Thanksgiving. And it's just bone dry because the water from the rain runs downhill. Naturally. It doesn't collect there's a few places where it collects, but there's not large quantities collected anywhere. And so it's just bone dry for 6 months. And then we get a short rainy season and it's bone dry for another 3 months. And so we have to have enough storage actually for 9 months, because 3 times in the time that we've lived there, and we've had no rain at all in that short rainy season. And it'll go from May until February with no rain, or with almost no rain. It's just, and at that point, you start finding dead cattle and dead donkeys and dead people, and it's really desperate when it doesn't rain. And so when we build our system, we plan for 9 months of dry season, and we plan for bad years. We have a spreadsheet that tells us this is what it looks like if you get normal rain, and then the next year you get a dry year, 80%, and the next year you get 80% of normal year. This is what it looks like for 3 years, and 2 of them are relatively dry. And we use that spreadsheet for planning our systems. And so that's why so many tanks to store water. And also, you didn't see it, but on the dispensary where there's 14 tanks, I went and labeled them January, February, March, April, May, and the last 2 tanks say reserved for the clinic in case they run out of everything else. So we're learning how to budget water. But at our house, Twyla and I live on rainwater. We have about 40,000 liters of water stored, and we use about 60 liters of water a day. Now, when we do laundry twice a week, we use a little bit more. But we've never run out of water since we built that system. Now, 2-gallon showers. But other questions? It takes us from 2 to 4 months. It's a whole lot easier if we're building during the dry season. But when we're getting grants, the grant usually says that you can't start working until you actually have the money in hand, and then you have to finish it within a certain time period. And so our last two projects, we've worked through the rainy season and just kept an eye on the clouds. Sometimes we work for 2 hours and we rush home, but so it's taken us longer in those projects. I could finish a project here on this building in 3 weeks using commercial equipment and workmen and stuff like that. But transporting everything up onto the mountain and working around the rainy season and working with bad roads and no heavy equipment, it takes longer. And our purpose is, part of our purpose is to teach people how to do it. And so we don't want to show them heavy equipment and things like that. They can't do that. They can dig by hand, they can put pipes together, they can buy plastic tanks. Those are all things that they can do. Yes, yeah, and actually, when we first built the church building system and our own, we had just a few tanks and we added on and added on. When we installed the tanks, and I didn't have a picture in there, there's two valves with a union in between, which means that we can shut off the valves and add other plumbing or take a tank out and repair it or clean it or whatever without draining the whole system. And so we can shut valves and add to the system anytime, anywhere. And we plan for that, especially with these schools where they're building new buildings and stuff like that. Or where we don't have enough money for as many tanks as we want. Yes, one rainy season will fill all those tanks. How do I say? It's difficult for people to understand how much water we get in a rainstorm. Well, yeah, we've all experienced that recently, but I want you to think. 1 square meter, 1 meter by 1 meter. If you get 1 inch of rain, how much water do you get? So 1 inch is 2.5 inches, right? Or centimeters, right? For each centimeter, you get 10 liters of water off of 1 meter. For each millimeter, you get 1 liter. So you get 1 inch of rain from 1 square meter of roof, you get 25 liters of water. How many square meters are there in this building? Does anybody know? 3,000? 300? 300? 10,000 square feet. So 1,000 square meters, approximately. So 1,000 times 2.5 for 1 inch of rain is 25,000 liters of water coming from this roof in one rainfall. The question is, when we're building during the rainy season, do we actually fill the tanks while we're building the system? And the answer is yes. Both of the Armorillo systems we did during the rainy season and running away from the rain, and both of them were full by the time we finished the system. Because we deliberately set up the tanks and get them ready to receive water as quickly as possible. And then we start running the gutters and the pipes and what have you. And as soon as we've got one gutter on and pipes going in, it starts filling those tanks. And we build them where it overflows from one tank to the next tank to the next tank. And so even though we've got pipes coming in from different directions, it all flows together. And so we, like that system there with the roof over top is a small lake, someone said. It's gravity fed. Everything's gravity fed. I avoid technology. Yeah. And so, like, the buildings don't have running water, but they have at Amarillo and well, at all of the schools, we've run an underground pipe from the tanks to the kitchen, and then we put a pipe coming up with a faucet, and that's where you fill tanks. Or fill pails, rather. You fill pails, and yeah, and yeah. So we're letting them haul pails of water for 50 feet instead of 6 hours a day, and we're getting some small victories. Oral cultures are very, very, very conservative. You don't do new things, and this is a new thing. And so for us, it's a victory that the guys that we're paying to build the systems are now installing a system on their own houses. And it's taken a while. They had to see how it worked. Even though they were being paid to build it, they had to see how well it worked. But so Paulo, we helped him buy one tank, and then he later on borrowed money from microloan organization, and now he has 5 tanks on his house. And he was telling me that because he's got water, his wife doesn't have to go 6 hours a day to get water, so she's got more time to take care of the house and the children and him. And the neighbors come and buy water, and so she's got a little cash. And they took an old corral, which lots of manure, and they put a fence around it, and they planted a little garden. This is really countercultural for Maasai. They don't plant gardens, but they planted a little garden, and now she has greens in the garden. She doesn't have to spend money in the market to buy greens. And the neighbors come and buy greens. And so it's changing their lifestyle just to have water from their house. And that's a very small system. And I get him to tell that story every time we get together with a group of Maasai. I have him tell that story because they need to hear it from a Maasai, not from me. Other questions? For ourselves, me. Well, I'm retired, and we have, while I was working, we bought several houses, and we've got a really good property manager who's a member of the church in Memphis who takes care of those for us. But I've got some retirement income from, not much, but some from FedEx, where I worked for 20 years, and now I'm on Social Security. But we also have several churches that give money. The Church of Christ at White Station in Memphis has been essentially our sponsoring congregation, and they provide some support, but they also let money come in and disperse it for us. And church in Hernando, Mississippi, in this church near Oklahoma City, and a church in Maynard, Texas, that also are supporting, and individuals that give. Primarily, we're raising money for projects, and a lot of our money has come from Rotary clubs through Rotary grants, and that's why you see on a lot of these the Rotary symbol. And we've found that that's a really effective way to build these large systems. But a Rotary grant starts at $30,000. That's the smallest grant they'll give. And so for smaller projects, we're partnering with this Global Water Works organization. And they're thrilled that we're a faith-based organization, and they are too, and they like that connection. And also we're partnered with Howie Taylor and his cool water projects. So he receives money for us and passes it on to us as well. Is that all? All right. please look at the jewelry and enjoy yourselves. And I'll be around to answer any other questions.